This is TWiT.
Hey, what's up? We are in Pleasanton, and I'm wearing something pretty fancy. I think you would agree. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing this kind of a suit, and actually it's because we're at a place called iFLY, which means that I get to live a lifelong dream of actually seeing what it's like to skydive. But this is TWiT, right? So there has to be a technology angle. Skydiving is great. Well, they do skydiving in combination with virtual reality to simulate the entire experience. I am so pumped and slightly terrified, but we're gonna literally jump into it right now.
The skydiving takes place inside a vertical wind tunnel that is blanketed with fans that push the air up. Wind is pushed through that tunnel at speeds that I saw starting around 120 miles per hour. My instructor showcased his own capabilities at speeds upwards of 180 miles per hour, which is pretty crazy, but none of this happened before I was given a solid education on what to expect.
What in
Hi, I'm Chris. I'll be your guide today.
This included learning a few hand signals that would help to guide me, the flyer, and keep my body in the air safely while wearing earplugs that are actually blocking the ear-piercing noise of the fans inside the tunnel. From there, I had to make sure that my suit fit me properly. Mental note, I'm insanely tall, so usually the answer is not really. And I had to get fitted with helmets and eye gear to protect me in flight. This was perhaps a bit more disconcerting when throwing the VR helmet onto my head. I will admit, when I put the VR helmet on, I felt a moment of panic. The thought of being propelled into the air while wearing a Gear VR helmet was kind of getting to me a little bit. But then I realized it was because the helmet was a bit too small for my head, so it just didn't fit.
Oh, that's what I missed. I just had to go like this.
Once I replaced it with a larger VR helmet, I knew I'd be okay, and it was time to soldier on. From there, I headed into the wind tunnel waiting area. This is where you sit or pace nervously as you await your turn inside the wind tunnel. And after a quick recap of the hand signals and a once-over on my gear, I was ready to fall into the wind tunnel. To prepare for the VR flight, I had to first fly a few times with all senses in check to make sure I had the basics down before being blinded to the world with a VR goggle on my face. I'd literally fall into the door, arms above my head, with my instructor guiding my body into the air. It was a total leap of faith. But suddenly, I found myself midair, wind whisking every fold in my jumpsuit, my arms held out in front of me and in place firmly by the strong wind. The challenge was really all about being loose, but not too loose. If I tensed up, my body might not hover symmetrically, and the same could be said for when I let my limbs fall loose. The trick was finding that perfect balance, and obviously the hand signals really helped in finding that balance. My second flight was perhaps my best flight. I felt like I was totally on. This is where I felt truly in control of my body position in midair, and where I noticed my instructor has to do the least to keep me centered inside the wind tunnel. I did begin to tense up toward the end of that second flight and almost immediately noticed a shifting of my stability, which I quickly corrected. So then, after all of this, I was ready to throw on the modified helmet with a Samsung Gear VR embedded into it. Now, thankfully, with the helmet on, I was shown the pass-through camera while standing in the waiting area, so I wasn't completely shut off from the world. My instructor let me know that the experience was about to begin, and I was led over to the entrance of the tube. That's when the 360-degree immersive video began playback, and suddenly, there I was in the belly of a plane, surrounded by fellow divers getting ready to jump out. And on the count of 3, I would lean forward through the door, hands in the air, and just trust that I'd make it into the air alive. Now, sure enough, the staff are absolute pros, and I suddenly found myself flying out of a plane, plummeting toward Dubai, United Arab Emirates. As I looked around me, I saw other skydivers making the trip with me and thought it was interesting at first. I quickly realized why the effect wasn't absolutely convincing, though. Sure, my brain felt being in midair, and my eyes saw me above a city, but I wasn't convinced in the way I expected to be. In VR, it's very hard to really lock onto the spatial cues that clue you into this kind of travel. The ground is so far away that very quickly it really just seems like you're looking at a picture of a city from above versus actually plunging rapidly toward it. Not only that, the resolution that was achieved with the Gear VR and the resolution of the video that was being played were low enough that it really just kind of felt like, well, I'm wearing VR while skydiving more than anything else. Jumping out of the plane was perhaps the most exhilarating part because of the interactive element of pushing oneself into the unknown, timed with the visuals in VR. Hovering over the cityscape was maybe a mere taste of what it could become in due time, either with improved resolution, a more dimensional experience, or some other enhancement that we just haven't quite figured out yet.
All right, I had an amazing time. It's an exhilarating experience, including with VR. There's some potential there to kind of improve that experience and make it just a little bit more convincing. But I really liked what I saw, and I'm actually thinking I might bring my kids out and show them what it's all about. I think they'd be pretty excited to do it. I'm Jason Howell. See you next time.